So, today we're going to talk about something that nobody wants to say out loud during the holidays. Most heart led creators, the visionaries, the sensitives, the intuitive entrepreneurs, the humans with medicine in their bones are living like they're on spiritual probation. How do I know? Because I used to be one of them. And you know exactly what I mean. They are brilliant, they are intuitive, they are overflowing with gifts that could genuinely change lives. And yet, the moment they desire something big, their entire nervous system clamps down like a hand over their mouth, distinguishing their dreams. Their breath shortens, their chest tightens, and their throats close around their truth. And that's when the old, tired scripts start rolling in, word for word. I don't need to be a millionaire or anything. I don't need a lot, just enough to take care of myself. I don't want to take from anyone else, and I don't want to be greedy. Listen, they think it's humility. They think it's a virtue. They think it's being spiritual. But, baby, that's not humility. That's captivity. That's generational programming dressed up like righteousness. That's generational fear masquerading as morality. That's old trauma wearing a halo. And that's ancestral shame dressed up as being a good person. And listen, I'm done watching it, and I'm certainly done living it. I'm done watching it hijack the lives of so many brilliant men and women who are here to lead, create, and change everything. Because here's the truth that nobody handed you: wanting more isn't greedy, staying small is. Your smallness saves no one. Your shrinking helps no one. Your just enough mindset doesn't protect anybody. It only locks you out of the life that you were born to create. And it starves the people who are waiting for what you came here to build. Because, baby, a heart as big as yours should have money that big, should have freedom that big, should have impact that big. And listen, the world isn't suffering because heart led humans have too much. The world is suffering because they don't have enough. And if that pisses you off, good, because this voltage is supposed to wake up your body, because it's fucking time we change the narrative that wanting more isn't selfish, but not wanting more is. Because you playing small, babe, doesn't spare anyone. It only robs the world of what you came here to do. So, welcome, welcome, welcome to another amazing episode here on Spiritually Kinky, where today we are going to talk about how wanting more isn't greedy, but staying small is. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dustin Wheeler. I'm a certified magnetic mind coach, and as someone who used to white knuckle my way through healing, reading all the books, saying all the affirmations, trying to manifest while my body was still locked in survival, I discovered something that changed everything. And this was a moment where I realized I wasn't broken, I was programmed. There was nothing wrong with my desires, nothing wrong with wanting more, nothing wrong with needing more than just enough. There was never anything wrong with longing for a life that felt rich, full, turned on, and free. The problem wasn't my desire. The problem was my programming. The problem was that my nervous system was coded to fear expansion and to worship self-sacrifice. And if you're listening to this right now, if something in you is stirring or tightening or lightening up, you're not broken either. You're just misaligned from the truth of who you really are. And now I teach heart-led creators, men and women, how to retrain their nervous system so calm becomes the new baseline, and creation, abundance, and overflow become natural instead of too much. And listen, baby, this podcast isn't here to fix you. You are never fucking broken. It's here to remind you who the fuck you really are. So let's talk about the nervous system of a shrinking creator. And let's go deeper, because I want you to picture something. I want you to picture the elephant that's tied to the post. A full-grown elephant can pull a 10,000-pound tree out of the ground. But if they were chained as a baby, they will stand inside a 3-foot radius their entire life, because they're conditioned to think that they are powerless. And most heart-led creators are that elephant, and their past is their post. Powerful enough to reshape their entire reality, but still circling a post that isn't even anchored into the ground anymore. Not because they're incapable, not because they're unworthy, but because their nervous system was conditioned on limitation, scarcity, and be good, be modest, and don't want too much. Listen, babe, your power didn't leave you, your brilliance didn't fade, and your potential didn't disappear. It just learned to stand still in a cage that has been living rent free in your mind for years. Your nervous system got trained to associate expansion with danger. If I rise, I'll lose love. If I shine, I'll be judged. If I want more, I'll seem greedy. If I outgrow my past, I'll outgrow the people in it. If I stop being modest, I'll be punished. So instead of running full speed into the water like your soul wants, you keep shrinking yourself into a version that feels safe. But safety, babe, is not the same as alignment, and comfort is not the same as destiny. You're not failing, you're domesticated, trained away from your own power. And this is the chapter, babe, where you take your fucking power back. So, the moral lie that keeps creators broke, and we're going to tear this one open because this is one of the biggest lies you've ever been sold. Being broke doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't make you holy. It doesn't make you noble. And it doesn't make you more spiritual. Being broke makes you easier to control, easier to silence, easier to dismiss, easier to manipulate, and easier to overlook. And most of us didn't choose this narrative. It was handed down to us as morality. If I'm okay with little, I'm humble. If I don't need too much, I'm good. If I just take care of myself, I'm spiritual. No, baby. That is fear-based programming that keeps brilliant people from rising. Because those in power love a human who's scared to want more. Religion loves a person who sacrifices their dreams. Society loves someone who keeps their power contained. But the world, baby, the world is starving for heart-led creators who have both the capacity to love deeply and the resources to actually change things. And here's the part you were never allowed to name. You were taught that self-abandonment is generosity. You were rewarded for shrinking. You were praised for not needing much. You were told that wanting more made you selfish. So you learned how to starve yourself and call it virtue. But babe, here's the savage truth. Self-sacrifice is not sainthood. It's programming. And keeping your life at a just enough to get by level is not protecting anyone. It's protecting the system that benefits from you staying small. The world doesn't need your modesty. The world needs your magnitude. Now, I want you to imagine another scene that there's this person standing in front of a window. They spend all their time polishing the glass, cleaning the spots, perfecting the reflection, adjusting the angle, organizing the curtains, making sure everything looks healed enough or spiritual enough and not too much. They take another course, they read another book, they write another gratitude list, they chase another certification. They become excellent at polishing the window, but they never open it. They never step outside. That's what it's like to do mindset work, shadow work, healing work while the structure never changes. Babe, you're still in the same room, same identity, same ceiling, same realistic instructions of what you're allowed to want. Your body stays in survival, your identity stays in scarcity, your desires stay filtered, and your power remains unclaimed. But babe, the window isn't the point. The world beyond it is. And this is the hard truth that you need to hear. Staying small is fucking selfish. And here's the one that most people are afraid to say. You staying small is one of the most selfish things that you can do. Because when you shrink your life to just enough, your gifts shrink. Your capacity to give shrinks. Your leadership shrinks. Your generosity shrinks. Your creativity shrinks. Your ability to fund change shrinks. And who does that help? Not your family, not your clients, not your community, not the causes that you care about, not the people that you secretly wish that you could bless. Smallness doesn't make you good, babe. Smallness makes you disappear. And the world does not need more disappearing creators. The world needs people with hearts like yours to have resources to match. So, what happens when people, just like you and me, don't shrink? Well, what if Oprah stayed small? What if a little Black girl from a violent, unstable home, a girl who was abused, dismissed, shamed, and discarded, believed what the world told her about who she was allowed to become? What if she listened when society said, people like you don't rise? People like you don't lead. People like you don't belong in these rooms. There would be no schools in Africa educating children who had no other chances, no global platform elevating voices nobody else would listen to, no mirror showing millions of people their own worthiness, no Sunday sermons shifting the consciousness of entire generations, no blueprint for self-made power built from pure heart and resilience. If Oprah stayed small, millions of people would have never learned to believe in their own story because she taught them that they had one. Her rise didn't just change her life, it changed the entire emotional ecosystem of humanity. That's what one person refusal to shrink can do. What if Beyonce stayed small? What if a shy little girl from Houston with a stutter and stage fright decided her voice wasn't worth hearing? What if she believed the whispers that said, be quiet, be nice, be modest? Don't take up too much space. Don't be too powerful. It makes people uncomfortable. There would be no renaissance, a global reclamation of feminine creative fire, no homecoming, a cultural healing woven into performance art. No example of a woman leading with both softness and unmatched excellence. No permission slip for women to be sensual, spiritual, ambitious, and sovereign all at once. And no redefinition of what feminine power looks like in its embodied, erotic, ancestral truth. If Beyonce stayed small, the world would have one less lighthouse for every woman who ever felt too much, too loud, too ambitious, too emotional, and too powerful. Her art became the doorway for millions of women to come home to themselves. And now let's bring the masculine into the room. What if Keanu Reeves stayed small? A man who lost nearly everything, parents, partner, child, and could have disappeared quietly into his grief, his trauma, his pain. But instead, he became a global symbol of resilience, compassion, generosity, masculine integrity, and creative rebirth. He brought humanity back into Hollywood. He helped redefine what quiet, embodied leadership looks like. He changed what men believed was possible for themselves. Or what if Tony Robbins stayed small? A kid from a violent, impoverished home living in survival who could have easily become another statistic. But instead, he rose, and his rise changed millions. He became a lighthouse for those who had no blueprint, no father, no support, teaching thousands of men and women how to reclaim their power, identity, and emotional mastery. And now, babe, let's bring it even closer. What if the healer who changed your life stayed small? What if the coach whose work cracked you open never charged for their gifts? What if the musician who saved your mental health kept their art to themselves because they didn't want to shine too bright? What if the creator whose message lifted you up had decided that they didn't need much? Your life would be missing something you can't even articulate. Now let's flip it, babe. Who loses when you stay small? Whose story never changes? Whose nervous system never gets that one session, that one message, that one program you are meant to create? Because, babe, your smallness has a body count. And that's not to shame you, it's time to wake you. Now, I want you to ask yourself, who loses when you continue to hide? Who starves when you dim your desire? And who misses out when you choose just enough? The answer, babe? Everyone. So, how do we reclaim the sacred seduction back into desire? I want you to lean in for a minute with me and let's soften this a bit. Drop your shoulders, unclench your jaw, let your belly soften, and just let your chest have a little bit more room. Because, babe, this next part is holy. This is the part you were never given permission to believe. That desire is not greed. Desire is guidance. Desire is not ego. Desire is expansion. Desire is not selfish. Desire is your soul saying, I'm ready for more. Stop pretending you're not. Desire isn't some dirty, dangerous impulse you have to tame to stay good and spiritual. Desire is your divinity expressing through you, pulling you forward into the future that actually matches who you are. Your desire to have more money, more space, more time, more pleasure, more impact does not steal from anyone. Because you having more does not take from anyone. You having more creates possibility. You having more becomes a signal, a demonstration, an invitation, a recalibration, and a fucking revolution. You are not here to ration your gifts like crumbs. You are put here to overflow. You're not here to dim. You are here to ignite. You are not here to apologize for craving a rich life. You are here to embody what's fucking possible when a heart-led creator stops pretending that they're fine with scraps. So how do we begin to recognize this in our body? Well, if your chest feels tight right now, if your throat feels thick, if your stomach is buzzing or your hands even feel a little shaky, that's not you being triggered in a bad way. That's the old programming cracking. Babe, that's not fear, that's recognition. That's your nervous system going, wait, what if we were actually allowed to want this? Because, babe, that's your true choice waking up. The part of you that remembers, I was never meant for just enough. I was never meant to dilute myself to be safe. I was meant to create. This is the moment everything can change. Not because you heard a pretty little podcast, but because you decide to stop calling your cage morality. You are meant for more, babe, and your desires were never the problem. So, what's the pathway back to your power from programming to creation? And what do you do with all this? Well, babe, if you're feeling called out, called up, and deeply seen all at the same time, that's your signal, babe. Your next step is not another year of working on yourself to finally feel worthy of what you already desire. Your next step is not healing or trying to fix what was never fucking broken. It's not trying to convince yourself into worthiness. Your next step is learning how to restructure your consciousness so that your nervous system actually feels safe in having what your soul has been asking for so long. This is where you stop creating from fear and start creating from wholeness. This is where desire becomes clean, where power becomes embodied, and overflow becomes your new fucking normal. And this is exactly the work that we do inside the Magnetic Shift Workshop, where we start unhooking the structures that are keeping you in the loop of almost and someday. And in the Spiritually Kinky Academy, where you learn to create from true choice, from wholeness, from innocence, from that part of you that is done negotiating with your own potential. Because, babe, if you're ready to stop shrinking and start rising, I'll show you how. And if you're ready to stop dreaming with the lid on and start living like the creator you actually are, then that's your invitation. So if your body is humming from this conversation, if your nervous system feels like something finally released its grip, if your desire feels a little less shameful, a little more holy, and maybe even a little bit more allowed, good. That means your remembering has begun. You don't need to earn your desires, babe. You don't need permission for your power, and you don't need to shrink to make anyone else fucking comfortable. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not too much. And you are not asking for the impossible. You are literally made of stardust, and stars don't fit in boxes. You are made for expansion. You are made for creation. You are made for overflow. So, babe, keep burning, keep creating, keep choosing yourself over your programming, keep walking toward the human you came here to become. And let me just remind you, whether you're here to be a little bit spiritual, or you're here to be a little bit kinky, or maybe you're here like me and ready to be a whole lot of both, lead with love, my friends. Lead with desire. And in case nobody told you today, I see you, I feel you, and I love you. And you are not alone. Mm-hmm.